Part 1. Mom, I have a problem. She looked at me with disbelief. I had a problem? I never had problems. At least no problems I needed to talk to her about. I lost a bet. I tried everything, but I can't get out of it. Mom looked curious. And what was the bet about? We argued about a band. I was so confident I'd win, but Sabine was right nevertheless. I don't mean that. How much do you have to pay? It is not a question of money. I have to come to school tomorrow with studs in my ears. If I don't do that. My eyes became moist. I was only 13 and things quickly become disasters at that age. The worst thing was that I absolutely wanted to have the earrings, but boys aren't allowed. At least, I thought that. Mom listened patiently to the whole story. Why I had lost the bet didn't interest her. We did not have the most familiar relationship, but managed to live with each other. That means we lived our lives without caring much, but also without bothering. Do you have a problem with earrings? I've seen many boys your age with them. I was perplexed. She didn't see any problem in that? No earrings, Mom, studs. I would never wear rings. The other boys always have only one. I have to wear 2 studs. At the office a man has 2 small rings, and it looks good. You think that's not a problem? I was amazed. Not at all. Let's go to the mall. Then you can see what they have and pick what you like. Mom was euphoric. At last, something that we could do together. And then everything happened really fast. A short time later we were back, and I had 2 small stainless steel studs in my ears. They were very simple, in the form of tiny coils. I felt fantastic in spite of the minor pain. The next day nothing of the euphoria remained and I went to school with mixed feelings. But nothing bad happened. On the contrary, my friends congratulated me, and even a few girls that ignored me normally made friendly remarks. I was very satisfied. 3 months later. Mom, I have a problem. She grinned. More earrings? No. Worse. Don't tell me more serious piercings? No, no piercings. I'd have no problems with that. They all think my studs are great. So what? I assume a bet again? Yes, a bet and with the same girl. She is a goth and wants me to be one too for a day. A goth? What's that? I think you know punks? She nodded. Just the same, only not colored, everything in black. Not quite correct, but how should I explain something like that to my mom? And why is wearing some black clothing a problem? It's more than that. It's the complete appearance. It includes black hair. And a collar. I was dark blonde, more blonde than dark. Again, Mom did not understand where the problem was. Black hair? You're afraid of that? No? I thought you. You should know better. I have no problems with dyeing hair or clothing colors, as long as it is well kept and nobody is offended. I wasn't sure whether she had understood what I said. Wait, Mom, I have a picture of Sabine. Then you'll know what I mean. I went in my room and printed a picture from Sabine. She wasn't one of the extreme ones. Mostly she wore jeans and t-shirt, however sometimes some tights with holes. Her collar wasn't out of leather as her friends wore, but of velvet. She looked rather sexy. What I didn't like was the black lipstick. Her eyes were made up very dark, which was exaggerated, however it looked somehow good. Of course the nails were black. Mom looked at the picture. I had chosen one in which she wore just jeans and not as so often a metal chain around the hips. Now, a little habituation needy, particularly the nose ring. But you said no piercings, and probably no makeup? No, no piercings. Her nose ring looks like a piercing, but it is clamped. This is a needed part. And of course no makeup, I am not a girl. That is, presumably black lipstick, if I think of Robert. So I don't see any problems. You can do that if it is just one day. At last you'll have a little diversity in your appearance. What was wrong with my appearance? Did she suspect that I looked forward to wearing girls' jeans? Even if they hardly looked different than mine, I would feel as a girl for a day. I asked her, what's wrong with jeans, t-shirts, and sneakers? That's fine as long as you don't wear them exclusively. I'm anxious to see you in a different outfit. Girls love to experiment, boys are always so unimaginative. I don't believe that you have black clothes. That means shopping? Again, I was amazed. I didn't expect that much liberality from Mom. And shopping, where she was normally always so economical. Money was no problem, but Mom couldn't deny her Swabian jeans. But I didn't need brand new jeans. Swabians live in the south of Germany and are known for their stinginess. No, shopping isn't necessary. I can get the needed things from Sabine, we are about the same size. Her jeans aren't that tight and quite unisex, I can wear them without problems. Perhaps some shoes. Wrong keyword. Women and shoes. 2 hours later I had a new pair of pitch black sneakers, which were pretty expensive. I could hardly believe it. But I liked them. One of the girls at school wore exactly the same ones, although they didn't look feminine. I got an appointment at the salon to dye my hair. I told Mom that Sabine always dyed her hair herself. But Mom was mistrustful, hair could be quickly damaged if done improperly. Sabine had insisted on exactly 24 hours, from midnight to midnight. I could sleep at her place since they had a guest room. And that night her parents wouldn't be there, only her sister. We agreed on Friday, but I'd arrive Thursday evening after my appointment at the salon. Incredible what a simple change of hair color does for your appearance. Mom was enthusiastic, and I was bewildered. She would have loved to go shopping for some clothes to match the new appearance. In the evening I arrived at Sabine. Hi. I didn't believe you really would show up. And with black hair. Suits you well. It's an affair of honor to pay a bet. We went to her room. The black hair is fine, but the hairdo is not so fabulous. My hair wasn't very long, just beyond the ears. I didn't have any real hairstyle. It was just uncontrolled growth. With my blonde hair it wasn't very noticeable, but the black hair made a strong contrast. My sister is very good with styling hair, she'd love to do yours. I'll ask her when she returns. She didn't think to ask for my consent. But I didn't care. You didn't bring anything? She asked. You said I'd get everything from you? Yes, but you don't sleep in your clothes? I have exactly the right thing for you. I didn't like the sound of that. I can sleep in my boxers. Nonsense. Besides, you don't have any choice once it's midnight. Why's that? Don't you remember the wording of our bet? For 24 hours you'd wear everything that I'm wearing. Everything including hair color, etc. Of course you can wait till midnight, but I think it's better that you start now. We can do the preparations now and you can sleep without interruptions. Strip. Undressing? Now? It's just 7 o'clock. And what preparations? You need your jewelry, nose and earrings, and your nails must be polished. That takes time. Nail polish? I thought. What did you expect? You know what I look like. I have polished nails, so will you for 24 hours. Maybe you'll like it and want to stay with it. Don't be so shy and undress. No one but me will see you. I suppose it'll be a hard day tomorrow. I wouldn't have any problems, but the other kids in school? I didn't have any desire for floggings. By the way, when was the last time you washed up? You smell. Take a shower. I submitted to my fate and went to get myself cleaned up. As I returned, my clothes were gone. In their place laid something shining. I finished drying myself, not simple with these tiny guest towels. I needed 4 of them until I was dry. Good thing that I didn't wash my hair. Now I had a chance to examine that shiny garment. It was a short nightdress with matching panties consisting of smooth and silky fabric, black as the night. Should I really wear this? I was torn. The only remaining possibility was to leave naked. The tiny towels weren't an option. I put on the panties. That was something completely different to my normal cotton boxers, so smooth and tender. I was very distracted from the resulting thoughts. What was the problem with me? I quickly donned the nightdress. It was so short, you could still see the panties. Now I saw that it was decorated with a lot of lace and had ruffles at the bottom. It was a baby doll nightie, as I learned later. I took a deep breath and went to Sabine's room. She looked at me expectantly. You look really cute. I answered in a sarcastic tone, I'm so excited. She ignored my sarcasm. With a collar and jewelry, you'll look even better. She got a velvet collar identically to hers. Only it had a pendant made of several metal rings. Sit down, she said, then tried to put it on me. But the clasp wouldn't close, my neck was larger than hers. That's not a problem. I do a lot of these myself. I even did my studded belt, she said, pointing at her hip. Then she rummaged in a drawer and returned with a pair of pliers. Don't move, I don't want to hurt you. Then she connected the 2 ends with several rivets behind of my neck. She grinned, so you won't lose that by accident. The nose ring was next. She held the ring up to my nose. Actually, it wasn't a complete ring, it had a gap with thickened round edges. With the pliers, she pressed the ends together until it wouldn't slide from my nose anymore. I hardly felt it. Finally, she took the earrings. They were also made of 3 different sized rings. Again, she used the tongs. I didn't suspect anything, but later I found out that she had used a rivet as a closure. So, now the nails. She took a bottle of black nail polish and coated the nails carefully. While they were drying, I looked at myself in the mirror. Through the deep neckline of the nightie, the collar with the pendant was very noticeable. The earrings matched exactly. They were heavy and, with every movement, they tickled. The whole picture was way too feminine. I didn't dislike it, but I was afraid. Tomorrow I would be wearing jeans and a t-shirt without such a deep neckline. hopefully that'll be better. Sabine gave my nails a second coat. When they are dry, you can do your toes. I have to get something. I didn't argue since this would be senseless. Plus, I wouldn't mind that my toenails were polished, nobody would see it. So I put a foot on the chair and gave them a coat. Flash! Before I could react, it went off again. Flash! Flash! The clicking of a camera went along with that. That bitch was taking photos. They would show me wearing a nightie in a very feminine pose while polishing the nails. Everyone that saw those pictures would believe I had done it on own will. I only hoped Mom would never see the photos. I didn't know what to do since I still had wet toes. Before I could think of anything, she was leaving. It was clear that I wouldn't be getting any chance at the camera. Therefore, I submitted to my fate and coated the remaining nails. Why did you do that? I asked acidly when she finally returned. You looked so cute when you polished the nails. And the nightie suits you. Really sexy. I grumbled. Don't be mad at me. This is fun. That depends on the point of view. Don't be so bitchy. Let's go to the living room, we can see a movie. You get to pick. I shrugged. Never would I have admitted that it was, in fact, fun. I had had dreams in which I looked like a girl. Up till then I had not worn any girl clothes, but that was more for lack of opportunity. We sat on the couch and watched a movie. I was so deep into the action that I didn't notice the arrival of Sabine's sister. Some minutes later the movie was finished, and she said to Sabine, "Hi, I just got in." "Who's your girlfriend?" I waited for the ground to open up and swallow me. I was completely frozen and unable to move. Sabine answered, "That's Nicole." I promised her that you could do something with her terrible hair. Please? I can't say no to my dearest sister, but let's to do it quickly, I'm very tired. Nicole, sit down there. Sabine, get my stuff, will you? Faster than I would have liked, she was working on my hair. Only a little bit. Don't worry. I won't deface you. It's only a little equalizing, so it doesn't look so wild. I'm almost finished. Close your eyes too, so you don't get hairs in it. Indeed, she was finished a short time later. On the floor was a lot of hair, it seemed she had done more than she admitted. But there was no mirror close for me to check what she'd done. We tidied up and sat down again on the couch. Soon we had a lively conversation and I forgot my new style. Sabine's sister was very nice. More and more I couldn't understand why Sabine was a goth. I decided to ask directly, but she answered evasively, maybe she would tell me later. It had gotten quite late. We've got to get up early tomorrow morning. Nicole, I'll show you your room. A little later I had fallen asleep. My silky nightie guaranteed the most beautiful dreams. Sabine woke me. Get up, sleepyhead. The bath's ready when you are. Come to my room when you're done. Here, wear this. She gave me black panties and a bra. I do not wear a bra. No discussions, we don't have any time for that. You promise to wear everything that I wear. And this includes the bras and panties. And if you keep on being bitchy, everyone will see the photos from yesterday. Other people might have defended themselves more. But the opportunity to wear something that was feminine fascinated me. Again my feelings confused me. That isn't normal for a boy, is it? Silently, I took the panties and the bra and went into the bath. There I saw myself for the first time in the mirror. Oh no! What had she done with my hair? I had very short bangs and pointed sideburns, both of which only girls had. The whole style was very feminine. Together with my nightie and the jewelry, I looked like a girl. Not a little bit, but girl from head to toe. But what should I do? Now it was too late. I undressed and got in the panties. The bra required a little thought, but soon I was wearing a bra for the first time. On one hand it was so ridiculous, on the other hand I enjoyed it. I went to Sabine's room. She too was only in panties and bra. It was the first time I saw her with so little clothing. She had a fabulous, very slim figure with all the right curves. Of all the feelings I could have gotten, all I felt was envy. She just finished her makeup. Don't stand there lazy, get dressed. Your clothes are on the bed. Somehow I knew what to expect. And I was right, on top was black pantyhose. Again I had doubts, but what should I do? The way I was dressed I couldn't leave the house. Discussing was senseless. And I also wanted it. I opened the package with the tights and dressed cautiously. Next was a black denim miniskirt. Finally, the t-shirt. It had a large round neckline and trumpet-shaped long sleeves that covered part of my hands. Meanwhile, Sabine wore an almost identical outfit. So, now your makeup. Sit down and watch precisely so that you can fix it if it's necessary. First came the foundation, a cream that went over my whole face and gave me a very pale complexion. Then eyeliner and mascara, eyebrow liner and dark eyeshadow. At last black lipstick. I hardly could recognize myself. Maybe I could fool everybody. Nobody had seen me with my new hair color and style, and with the strong makeup, I looked very different. The jewelry, especially the nose ring, draws attention to them and away from my face. And my clothing would guarantee they wouldn't be looking into my face exactly. I looked very similar to Sabine, with one exception. Sabine, I did everything that you wanted. But I have two conditions, otherwise I don't go to school. First, you do not tell anybody who I am. Just call me Nicole. Okay, no problem. And the second? Give me something that I can stuff into this bra. She grinned and gave me a bag with cotton wool balls. I lifted the t-shirt and stuffed the bra until the cups were sufficiently filled. From this perspective they looked way too large, but in the mirror everything was perfectly normal as it should look like. Sigh. At last Sabine took some small scissors and cut a few punctures into my tights, then I put on my new shoes, the only part which remained from my own clothes. We went to the bus stop with my stomach doing twists. But everything went fine. There were only a few disgusted looks due to the goth outfits, but nobody took a second look. Slowly, I calmed down. I was very worried about passing the presence check in the classroom. But thanks to Sabine, everything went fine. She introduced me as a visitor that she accompanied because of the absence of parents. If somebody recognized me, it didn't show. Everything went fine. Except that I got a lot of disgusted looks. But it was fine by me that everyone kept some distance. I stuck to Sabine. Contrary to my big worries in the morning, everything went without problems. Once I was about to enter the wrong toilet, but Sabine saved me. In the meantime, I had become accustomed to the skirt and didn't notice it anymore. Actually, it was much more comfortable than my jeans were. Perfectly normal. School ended and Sabine said, "Compliments, Nicole, I had thought that you would dodge. But you showed a lot of courage. I invite you for lunch to the mall." Since everything had gone well and without problems, I agreed. At the mall we were noticed more than in school. Particularly some older people did not like our outfits and showed that bluntly. But I didn't care. We ate some burgers and did some window shopping. Sabine bought me some metal bracelets which now clattered on my wrist with every movement. I had gotten accustomed to the earrings pretty quickly. Finally we took the bus back to Sabine's. After we arrived she asked me, "So, how did you like the day?" First I was really worried. After I got over that, it was fun. You see, it wasn't that bad at all. If you wish we can do it again. Actually it is still a few hours, but I renounce. You have fulfilled the conditions of our bet. I don't think that I'll do that again, I replied, but that referred only to the black clothes. This wouldn't be the last time I'd dress as a girl. Then the doorbell rang. When Sabine opened it, my mom was standing there. I was paralyzed with terror. "Hello, Sabine. Glad you're home. I can't pick my son up tomorrow. I've gotten some surprise visitors. He'll have to come home now. Could you please get him?" "Sure. There he is," she answered and pointed at me. I waited impatiently for the ground to open so I could vanish, but nothing happened. Mom's eyes almost popped out of her face. "Okay, son. I didn't like the sound of it. Let's go. You have a lot to explain." Oh, that meant trouble, big trouble. I said goodbye to Sabine and got into the car. "So explain why you are dressed that way." "I almost didn't recognize you. I decided to play stupid. I told you that I had to do this because I lost my bet. And you wanted me to look different. Isn't this different enough?" The tactics seemed to be right because she laughed. But we never talked about tights, skirts and a bosom. Not to mention makeup. "And how did you get that hairstyle? I hardly recognized you, you look like a girl." "Sabine's sister did my hair. She wasn't wicked, but thought I was a girl. It was pure coincidence. I should probably start at the beginning." And so I did. Mom was satisfied with my explanation, to some extent. "This isn't finished yet. You can't dress up as a girl. I'll consider another punishment, and we'll talk with Sabine's mother." I hung my head and wanted to go to my room, but Mom stopped me and got the camera. "Oh no! Not again!" Nothing I said helped. She took photos from all directions. "Since you look like a girl, you get to do the typically feminine work also. Go to the kitchen." I had a lot of work to do over the next few hours. I even had to clean up after dinner. I was really tired by the time I finished. "Okay, that's it. Go to bed. Tomorrow morning I want to see my son again. My sister arrives tomorrow morning." I went into the bath and washed my face, however my eyes kept being smeared black. I called Mom. She explained that there are specific makeup removers, but most simply baby oil will do. Now I knew why we had baby oil without a baby. With the oil the makeup was easily removed. With nail polish remover I quickly removed the enamel from my fingers. I ignored my feet since I was too tired and no one would see it. Then I attempted to remove the jewelry. I couldn't get the earring closure off the earrings and the collar was riveted. I might have cut it, but it belonged Sabine. I decided to deal with it tomorrow, and also left the nose ring since I didn't want to search for pliers now. I doubted if we had any. As I undressed, the tights tore completely. But that shouldn't be a problem since I wouldn't wear them again, and they certainly weren't valuable. Finally, I wore my PJs and went to bed, only to dream about a black nightie. The next morning I wore my usual jeans and t-shirt. The collar was partly covered, but it was still noticeable. I went to Mom. Mom, I have a problem. She looked at me. I can see 3 problems. We have any pliers? Look into the second drawer. I found some pliers and with some difficulty I was able to remove the nose ring. The nose ring is off, but I don't know how the earrings come off. First she attempted it with the fingers, and then with the pliers without success. Ouch! I can't get them off either. We'll have to ask Sabine. At that moment the doorbell rang and her sister arrived. While we greeted her she kept staring at my earrings, but didn't say anything. We sat down and talked about the usual family affairs. Then, however, her curiosity won. Is it normal for boys to wear such earrings today? I dropped my head ashamed. No, we're just not able to remove them. It's due to a bet. And then she told the whole story. I'd loved to have seen that. I made photos, but they have to be developed. What a pity. A mischievous grin grew on Mom's face. Actually, why not? We still have everything. I went pale and begged, no Mom, please not. Of course I'd love to dress up again, but Mom shouldn't know that. And I was afraid that she would notice I liked it. Why is this so difficult? You should have considered that yesterday. Go to your room and change. I tore the tights while undressing. And I have no makeup, not that it matters, I don't know how to apply it. No problem, you can have my tights and makeup. I don't have any black, but we'll find something fitting. And with that she went to her room to get the tights and some nail polish. Meanwhile I dressed again in Sabine's clothes and stuffed the bra. The tights were a very different quality than those of Sabine. They had been opaque and dull. The ones from Mom were black too, but sheer and shiny. My legs looked very classy and very feminine. Then I painted nails. The color was dark, but not black. It was a dark deep red. After the second coat my fingertips shone like rubies. They were hardly dry when Mom brought out the makeup. The foundation was not as pale as Sabine's, and I got a kind of a velvet complexion. Eyeliner and mascara were the only black items. Mom didn't use as much as Sabine either. Next, the eyeshadow was applied. The darker part was a dark gray blue, with some brighter blue above the lids. Lipstick, the same ruby red as the nails, finished everything off. Mom returned to her sister. I looked at myself in the mirror. Although I wore the same skirt and t-shirt, and the makeup was similar, the effect was completely different. It wasn't as somber as yesterday, but rather classy in a very feminine way. Also, the goth effect from the torn tights and removed nose ring was missing. Two very elegant legs jutted out of the skirt, only the shoes didn't fit in the picture. The picture made a deep impression on me. I looked more like a normal girl than yesterday, still not really my taste, but good enough. A call from Mom brought me out of my trance, and I went down. Mom's sister was shocked. For a long time she stared at me. That is an incredible transformation. Even though I know this is a boy, it's almost impossible for me to see that. Okay, the makeup is a little strong, but she looks really great. Oops, now I even said she dot. I had to sit down opposite of her so she could to look at me. Then the doorbell rang again. I usually went to the door, but I looked pleadingly to Mom. She understood and opened. It was Sabine, who immodestly came in. She looked quite normal, without makeup and in jeans. Then she saw me, and stopped with open mouth. Finally she said, you forgot your clothes, I only wanted to give it back. But it seems you don't need them. This damn ground. Again it didn't open. Thankfully Mom intervened. Now slow down, young lady. As far as I've been informed, that was all your idea, and he didn't do that voluntarily. Correct? Yes. I don't think that was an acceptable bet. He could easily have gotten in serious trouble. Sabine sensed trouble. I have to go, my mother is waiting in the car. Perfect, now I don't have to visit her. Ask her to come in, please. Sabine wasn't happy with that. A moment later she returned with her mother. Sabine and I were sent to my room while the three women were talking. Sabine asked, "Are you only wearing skirts now?" You don't mean that, do you? The answer is no. Today is just as involuntary as yesterday. Mom's sister saw my earrings and wanted to know the reason. Then she was curious to see how I looked yesterday. Sorry, I just thought. But you look great, that makeup suits you. And these tights are classy, they certainly were very expensive. While we waited for our mothers, we kept talking about the most normal topics a boy can talk about, his makeup and his sexy legs. I enjoyed the conversation between two girlfriends very much. Of course, I asked her how to remove the collar and the earrings. You can't, she said, you can only cut the collar. And you have to somehow nip off the earrings, the rivets won't come off either. Fabulous. I wouldn't be getting rid of them very quickly. I did like them, though. Some more time to wear nice earrings. Then our mothers called us. Listen carefully, both of you. Sabine, you went completely overboard. And you, Klaus, why did you agree to this after you saw where it was leading? So that you won't do that ever again, you will be punished. Both of you will spend the whole day tomorrow with us. You don't get any time of your own. And you will not like it. Sabine, I know how you hate beautiful dresses and a normal appearance. You will spend tomorrow as an elegant young lady, with decent makeup and without black hair. In fact, everything black is forbidden. A beautiful summer dress, for example, will do, and no jogging shoes. Today afternoon go we shopping and to the hairdresser. Klaus, for you it is exactly the same. I don't believe you will ever wear a skirt after that. I hope you will learn your lesson. I do not want to hear any objections. I promise you will not like the reaction. I want to see two perfect young ladies tomorrow, every second of the day. If you behave, then this settles the matter. If not, there will be further punishments. Therefore you better try hard. Understood? We both nodded and hung our heads. Then we were sent again to my room. Mom, shouldn't I change back? No, until Monday you are not allowed to wear any trousers. Again, the same is valid for Sabine. I think I have a skirt which will fit her. A short time later, Mom brought some skin-colored pantyhose and a short skirt, which she had worn for tennis. That one was the opposite of black, it was brightly colored. Sabine changed without a word. Later, Mom returned with 2 pairs of shoes. A plain pump with a 2-inch heel was for Sabine. Klaus, these shoes are probably a little too small, but with the adjustable straps it should fit to some extent. Try them on. I tried, and was able to slip them on, but they were a little tight. The heel was only about 2 inches, but the feeling was completely new. I was used to soft jogging shoes, these had hard soles, which made some noise with every step. And then we drove to the mall. Unlike yesterday, Sabine and I received a whole new kind of attention. We were getting a lot of stares from boys. Hopefully nobody will recognize me. First stop for Sabine was the hairdresser, and for me, the shoe store. After I tried on countless pairs of shoes of every style, Mom settled for a classic pump with a 3-inch heel. Since the old ones were a bit small, I wore the new ones, which fit perfectly. But I had more than a little trouble getting used to the tall heel. I felt very unsteady in those shoes. I could stand okay, but walking was difficult, to say the least. I had to be very careful not to stab my own foot with the pointy heel. I wasn't graceful, and at first walked with my knees bent. Mom wasn't satisfied and kept telling me what I was doing wrong. I slowly improved the more I practiced. After a long hour, I finally felt comfortable enough to continue with our trip. I felt like it took me forever to figure it out. I guess I wasn't as slow as I thought. Later, Mom told me she was amazed by how fast I learned and how gracefully I moved. She said I was a natural. Before I realized it, we had made it back to the hairdresser. Sabine was waiting outside for us. I almost didn't recognize her. Her normal black hair had been replaced by a beautiful shade of chestnut done in a very elegant feminine style. It was the type a girl her age would wear for a fancy dance. Her black t-shirt and nose ring had also disappeared. In its place, she now wore a light-colored blouse. The difference was so dramatic that no one would recognize her as the goth girl she was a few hours before. "Sabine, you look, wow. I mean, you look great," I stammered. "I look like prom night Barbie," she grumped. "Do you come with prom night Ken and a big fancy pink limo?" I grinned. Neither of us could keep straight faces. Try as we might, we both dissolved into a fit of laughter. Sabine took about a second longer than me, but she's always been a bit of a grouch. Somewhere between the start of our fit and regaining our composure, the adult girls had disappeared. "You think we should go look for them?" I asked. "What, and have them come back and find us missing? Are you insane? They're liable to decide that turning us into the Olsen twins isn't bad enough and get real nasty," Sabine replied. "Good point. Maybe we should stay put." "Olsen twins, huh? Which one of us gets to go to rehab?" Another round of giggle fits followed. Despite the gravity of our situation, Sabine and I returned to our normal sarcastic conversation. Everyone that walked by saw 2 teen girls doing what teen girls do, talking and giggling. While Sabine and I were busy, the 2 moms and my aunt had been searching for dresses. They returned and led us to one of the nearby shops. We tried on many different kinds of dresses, looking for the perfect one. Sabine and I had no say in this matter, that was in our mother's hands. Many dresses later, the decision was made. We both ended up in the same dress. Mine was rose-colored with light puff sleeves, the skirt went just to the knees. It was finished with lace around the sleeves and hem. It looked very girly, without being childlike. The appearance suited 13-year-old girls exactly. It was a bit difficult not to show my enthusiasm. This was heaven. Our shopping day had been a busy one. All four of us walked out of the mall with our arms full of bags. Apparently, our mothers had gotten a little carried away. I couldn't help but smile. However, Sabine didn't seem to share my good mood. While the three women were sitting in the living room, Sabine had to practice walking in heels. She was envious that I didn't have as much trouble as she was. So I, a boy, tried to teach a girl how to walk in heels. After some time her feet began to hurt, but she was still a bit unsteady. For all the conversation that day, we never discussed how we felt about everything. Sabine didn't seem like she wanted to talk about it, and I didn't want to admit how I felt. I was still trying to figure out why I felt the way I did. I should be the one having trouble with all of it. I'm a boy after all. I'm supposed to hate that sort of stuff. Instead, I'm loving it and Sabine is barely tolerating it. After Sabine and her mother left for home, Mom, her sister, and I met in the living room for dinner and to talk about the day. After we finished clearing the dishes, Mom managed to get the collar cut away. The earrings stayed since she couldn't find a tool to remove them. I had to remove the dark nail polish and then recoat them in a vivid pink that matched the dress. I didn't say anything, but I loved the color. It suited a teenage girl much better. The next morning Mom woke me early and sent me to the shower. When I returned I found my clothes laid out on my bed, a white lace teddy and white hose with lace tops. I donned the teddy and fought with the clasp in the crotch. Mom helped me with fastening the stockings to the garters. Next was makeup. This time the eyeliner was very thin, and my brows were plucked and styled into two thin arches. Light blue eyeshadow finished off my eyes. A touch of rouge was added along with lipstick that matched my nail polish. I loved what I saw in the mirror. I looked like a girl again, but more like other girls my age. After I put on the dress and heels, I fell in love with myself. Mom's plan was to shock and deter me with this very feminine picture. However, the exact opposite happened. It took her a moment to get me out of my trance. Had she noticed something? The last touches were a small gold necklace and watch. Then Mom left to dress herself. I was left to look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't believe that it was me. Mom returned a few minutes later wearing a nice dress and heels too. She looked great. I was handed a small purse, then we left the house. Mom drove us to Sabine's house. Once we were inside, I headed to Sabine's room while our moms talked. I had forgotten about how much she had changed. She was beautiful. Her dress was identical to mine, as was her makeup. A gold necklace, matching small golden earrings, and a gold watch were added for her finishing touch. Looking at each other, we had to laugh. If we didn't know any better, we would have thought we were sisters. Our mothers called us a few minutes later. We were quite a sight, all four of us in our dresses and heels. The moms decided to take us to the zoo. We spent much of the morning walking around looking at all the exotic animals. In the afternoon, we had a nice lunch at the zoo's cafe. Before I knew it, the day was over. It had been simply wonderful, but it passed much too quickly. My throbbing, aching feet were no match for the wonderful feelings I had. I never wanted the day to end. Amazingly, Sabine had fun too. I had presumed that she'd be in a bad mood the whole day. But on the contrary, she looked like she had been freed from some burden. Something had clicked inside her. Apparently color suited her since I never saw her in black again. Much later she told me that at first she tried the goth thing out of curiosity. It was mostly peer pressure that made her stay that way. As is the nature of all things, the most beautiful day in my life ended. I was saddened to think I couldn't look forward to wearing the clothes again, as Sabine could. For me it was just this one time. My aunt took the dress for her daughter and I was returned to full male status. First a jeweler removed the earrings. Then I got a new haircut, quite short, and not at all feminine. All that remained of the day was my black hair. I thought that skirts and dresses would be history for me, however, it happened completely differently. Part 2 a year later. I was now 14, and puberty hadn't started yet. My doctor wasn't worried, saying that there was still plenty of time before I need to worry. But if nothing would happen within the next year, he would give me a thorough examination. Meanwhile, all the standard examinations said I was in perfect health. My relationship with Sabine had grown. We had become like sisters and spent a lot of time together. Since she had dropped the goth thing, she was a completely different person. That sarcastic, indifferent, slightly antisocial girl had been replaced by one that was nice, friendly, and warm. I often think back to that day we spent at the zoo all dressed. I hadn't gotten the chance to wear anything feminine since. The closest I was able to get to that was in my dreams at night. The changes that Sabine went through that day had been good for her. Since she had gotten away from the goth scene, she had made a few new friends and picked up a new hobby. She has really gotten into dancing. When I say dancing, I don't mean anything like ballroom, disco, or square dancing. She likes gardetans. When she told me she was joining a squad, I couldn't imagine what gardetans was and didn't have any interest in finding out. We usually meet after her practices to hang out. One day I showed up early, so I watched the last few minutes. I was very impressed. It was a large group of girls that showed outstanding performances. They were doing really breathtaking athletic dances with high levels of difficulty that would honor a top-tier gymnast. They could throw up their legs higher than their heads and perform in perfect synchronicity. I was more than impressed. No, I was fascinated. I've seen cheerleaders, but this was, by far, more than impressive. When we got home, I tried to throw up one leg. I got it maybe 1 meter high and then about fell over. I couldn't believe it. It looked so easy when the girls did it. Now it was a matter of my pride. I kept trying and trying. After a couple days I got a little better, but far from what the girls could do. At least I managed not to fall. Then I attempted splits. Ouch! Only a lot of practice could help. Every day I practiced and stretched until my flexibility had improved considerably. It was a lot harder than it looked, but I enjoyed it. A week later I stopped by to watch a full practice. Sabine was really happy to see me. She thought it was great that I had come. During a break I talked to the coach. "What brings you here today?" "Do you know one of the girls?" she asked. "Yes, Sabine is my friend. She talks about this a lot, and last week I watched for a few minutes. It got me interested in what they are doing and I decided to get a closer look. You are welcome to watch any time. Or you can join in if you'd like." "Participate? Really?" "Of course, give it a try." I joined in after the break with a few simple moves. My jeans probably weren't the best things to wear. I couldn't move around as easily as I would have liked, but I did have fun. The coach must have liked what she saw, you are agile and limber, and you show some talent as well. I saw that you had a lot of fun. Would you like to practice regularly? Yes, I'd love that. Thank you very much. Jeans aren't very suitable for this, though. Next time you should wear something else. Something that stretches, moves easily, and fits snugly. Something like the girls' leotards would be best. I don't have anything like that. Okay, I'll see if we have anything you can use. We used to have a mixed dance group, but it's been a few years. Too few boys have been interested in it. And you should be aware that you can practice with the girls, but the show is reserved for the girls. No problem, I don't want to be on a stage anyway. A week later was my first real practice. Unfortunately, I didn't find much in your size, the coach informed me. One of the last boys wore this leotard, but I didn't find the matching trousers, only his shorts. It's not really suitable, though. It's too easy to get a scrape if you fall. Therefore, you need some sort of pants that covers your whole leg. The best thing is tights like the girls are wearing. No tights for me, then? I thought you wouldn't like them, most boys won't wear them. Have you ever taken a close look at a runner? They call it something different, but they look just the same. And climbers wear them, too. It's common in sports where you don't want to wear anything loose. I don't have any problems with tights as long as they aren't pink. Great, I think I have some tights that will match your blue-white leotard. I'll go look for them while you see if it fits. I quickly changed into the leotard. It turned out to be a perfect fit. She gave me some steel blue tights that I wore over the leotard. Unlike the girls, they wore their leotards above the tights. It was time for practice to begin. Since it was spring, the group was practicing the new movements for the next season. I didn't have any problems joining in. After some initial hesitation, the girls accepted me and I had a lot of fun. From then on, practices were the highlight of the week. Soon I was doing it just like the girls. I even started wearing my leotard above the tights. During the more difficult moves, I accidentally got my pants pulled down repeatedly. I was very thankful for the leotard, because with a shirt, I would have been naked. I had also replaced my jogging shoes with gymnastics shoes since the jogging shoes weren't very suitable. Once I accidentally kicked one of the girls with the rough sole of the jogging shoes. That settled the change to the soft gymnastics shoes. I looked exactly like the girls, but nobody seemed bothered. In Germany, everyone knows the Gardetanz groups for their nice uniforms. But these were especially beautiful and sexy. The jacket and the skirt were made of shiny bright white satin with a blue pattern. They were decorated with lots of sequins. The skirt was very short and with a voluminous petticoat and lots of lace. When the skirt flew up, you could see the panties with a lot of ruffles. The leggings were a very shiny skin-colored pantyhose, the feet in white tender dance boots. Everyone had a wig with long plaited braids and a large bow at the end. Of course, they wore the typical triangular hat with fur trimming. The girls looked heavenly and incredibly sexy. How I wished I could join them. I have never been that envious in my life. Up until then, I had practiced at all the different positions. That wasn't possible anymore, since the final choreography was set and everybody had her position. Because I wasn't involved in the show, I became the outsider. Our coach knew there was a problem, but what could she do? I still participated in all practices, but it wasn't as much fun as it was earlier. Mostly I exercised alone or watched the girls. In October, shortly before the beginning of the session, one of the girls had an accident and was badly injured. She wouldn't be able to perform anymore. The choreography required a certain number of girls, and in the few weeks remaining nobody was able to learn the movements. The girls were really disappointed. All the practice for nothing? There were some lively discussions with the coach. I kept some distance. What could I do? I knew a solution, however, I wasn't going to suggest it. One of the girls approached me. You know everything as well as we do. Would you perform in the show? Please? We don't have any other solutions. Would you help? Please? Some of the girls were crying. I'd love to help, but it won't work. You are a girl group, not a mixed group. The whole thing would look funny with all girls and just one boy. Yes. I know, air. I didn't get that last part. Could you translate it into something I might understand? Maybe you could join us as a girl? With our uniforms nobody would notice. She looked at me expectantly. I had a hard time not showing my excitement. It couldn't be better, but I answered coolly. You mean, I'm supposed to put on a skirt? If you haven't noticed, I'm not a girl. I know we ask a lot, but otherwise the whole practice was in vain. Bit. Now the other girls tried to persuade me too. After a few minutes I had no choice but to surrender. Okay. I'll do it if you can persuade my mother. The girls exulted, and then decided to persuade my mom by a surprise coup. Our whole group went home with me. Mom was very surprised. She didn't understand what they wanted because everyone was talking at the same time. Finally, the coach silenced the group and explained the situation to her. Mom listened, giving me some strange looks, but then the girls all started talking again. She was wise enough to see she couldn't win the battle and agreed. The group went crazy. They were all really happy that they would be able to perform what they had worked so hard on. Mom's behavior was strange that evening. She was somehow depressed, and I didn't get why. I was sure that the problem was me acting like a girl. She didn't answer any of my questions. Eventually, I gave up trying. The next day they took my measurements for the uniform. With a little pressure from the committee, it only took 1 week until it arrived exceptionally fast. I could hardly wait for the next practice. Mom saw my joy, but didn't share it. I didn't realize that in all my excitement. Now that I would get to wear a uniform, I was a total wreck. I wasn't totally sure how everything went on. The girls were super friendly and promised to help. That calmed me down a lot. I already wore the pantyhose. It shone wonderfully. The ruffle panties were pulled on over that. Many helpful hands pulled a bra on for me. It had integrated silicone pillows, which gave it a very realistic look. While dancing, they would move the same as the girls' real ones. Quickly, the petticoat, skirt, and jacket followed. Then the wig, dance boots, and hat. When we finished, I looked just the same as the other girls. I was in heaven. The practice was so much more fun than it was before. It took some time to get familiar with all the strange sensations and movements. My artificial breasts had a life of their own, especially with strong moves. That was weird since they weren't that large. Up to now I only practiced in a leotard. I had to deal with the skirt being pushed out by the petticoat. As there was so little distance between us, my skirt collided with the skirts of the other girls and flew up and down. I don't think that anyone who hasn't had so much cloth around the hips can understand this. I didn't know where to put my hands either. With so much skirt sticking out, I couldn't just let them hang straight down. Later I learned that ballerinas have the same problems when they wear their first tutu. Sitting down wasn't a simple task either. The petticoat needed more room than the chair offered. Finally, I sat down on the front rim. But even that felt strange because of the many ruffles of the panties. The girls were used to that. I, however, needed more time. In the meantime, they got many opportunities to giggle. I had to laugh quite often too, and so it was very merry and we had a lot of fun. Another problem was that all that cloth insulated well. The wig worked like a warm cap. This with our arduous sport, too. The end result was a lot of sweating. Without much choice, I got used to it quickly. Practice was over much too fast and it was time to get changed. With a laughing and crying eye, I got undressed. The coolness of my normal clothing was refreshing, but I felt a tug of regret from being back in boys' clothes. Unlike the last time I wore a dress, I would wear the uniform very often. I could hardly wait for the next practice. Back in normal clothing, I felt uneasy. The missing resistance of the skirt together with the missing heat made me feel like I was naked. I had to check a few times to remind myself that I wasn't. Strange how things like that happen. We were all very excited about our first public show. Mom didn't want to come to the show, but was persuaded by the group. She hadn't seen me in my costume and I was anxious to get her opinion. Unlike practice, I wore makeup just like the rest of the group. The girls had helped me out since I didn't have any of my own. I learned the difference between standard and waterproof makeup. With all the sweating that we would be doing, normal makeup would no doubt run all over our faces. Wouldn't that be a sight? Our performance went great. We arrived already in our costumes, petticoats and bus seats, but the small bus did not offer any place for relatives. Mom drove with Sabine's mom in the car. After the performance, it took some time until finally we were able to get out of the hall. Our competitors, our parents, were waiting for us. I hugged Mom. Not that simple with the skirt standing so far off and 2 pairs of breasts. Neither of us were used to that. I didn't know exactly why, but she had tears in the eyes. Was it tears of joy as it was for me? Again, she had such a strange facial expression that I couldn't read. The next day she didn't mention my performance either. I was really disappointed. With practices and performances, I hardly had any free time, but I was having more fun than ever before. I loved being with the girls and wearing my uniform. I was even learning a lot about makeup. I had gotten to the point where I could do mine by myself. The next performances went really great. Then the first problem came. Since the ride was longer, we didn't wear our costumes as we had before. Before changing clothes, I went quickly to the toilet. I had to pay attention that the toilet matched my clothing, therefore, the men's toilet. When I wanted to join my group, security wouldn't let me pass. Nothing I said would help, he was stubborn. I got panicked since there was almost no time left to change into my costume. He still wouldn't let me pass and started to get rough. At last our nearly hysterical coach came out looking for me. Even she had problems with the stubborn guard. While they were distracted arguing the matter, I managed to slip past. I changed in a hurry and managed to join my group at last minute. That was tight. On the drive home in the bus, the event was discussed in detail. We had to figure out a way to make sure that didn't happen again. The girl's conclusion was easy: if I dressed on stage like a girl, then I can do so on the journey. With that, such problems in future would be avoided. I agreed, but wanted to wait for Mom's approval. Mom, I have a problem. With your performances? Yes, partly. I had expected that it would lead to problems sometime. With whom do you have trouble? With nobody, Mom. Calm down, nothing fatal has happened. I only had problems because I didn't wear my uniform. A security guard wouldn't let me pass and I almost missed the performance. She looked relieved. That's all? Yes, but the girls want to avoid that in the future. They want me to dress as a girl during the trip to shows in order to avoid further problems. And you want it? I don't have any problem with it. But you apparently do. What is it? Why won't you tell me? Not yet. Presumably we have to go shopping? And so we once again went shopping for girl clothes. No skirts or dresses this time. Just girl jeans, feminine sweaters, and of course shoes. We also bought a wig because the braids were not suitable for the ride. I felt bad about using the other girls' makeup, so I convinced Mom to get some as well. She wasn't happy with my knowledge about water-resistant makeup. For the next performance, I dressed like a girl for the ride. I wore my dance pantyhose already under the jeans. Big mistake, much too warm. But I didn't want to change my underclothes in front of the girls. I was a boy after all. And my panties showed my little boy parts clearly. It was still little because I still hadn't entered puberty. However, with the pantyhose and the ruffled panties you couldn't see anything. We went shopping again and bought skirts. Much better. Since the performances took up all my free time, I almost always wore girl clothes. Even on weekends I stayed with girl clothes. I didn't like to change clothes all the time. According to the requirements, my girl wardrobe grew more and more. My old clothes began to vanish. If somebody looked into my closet, they would hardly believe that it belonged to a boy. Sabine found that funny, and only called me Nicole. I felt really great. Some days later, Sabine asked me, "Don't you want to wear a skirt to school?" I saw some boys wearing long skirts. They are fashion for men. Sabine, I don't know how to tell you. It's not important for me to wear a skirt. I thought because you liked the Marichan uniform so much. I saw how you always got big eyes. And you don't have any problems wearing girls' clothes outside school. And if I look into your cupboard. Okay, I have a lot of fun wearing those clothes. But it is not a question of a skirt. The other boys wear man's skirts. Though it is a skirt, it is definitively masculine. That's the same as a kilt. I don't want that. I don't get it. A skirt is too masculine? I don't understand it myself. It is not a question of wearing something feminine in order to be satisfied. But I really like to wear feminine things. It's so difficult. I thought about that a lot, and I'm surely not a transvestite. Even if I presumably own more skirts than trousers. But what is it all about then? It's really difficult to say. I can't find the right words. You are the only one that I can talk about this with, even that is difficult for me. It's not that I don't trust you. I just want to wear the clothing in which I feel good, clothes which show how I feel. For me, a skirt or pantyhose isn't something special, it is very normal, as it is for every other girl. I believe I understand just a little bit. I'll have to think about that. Can we talk about this again? Christmas came and things finally calmed down a little. I got some time to think about a few things. I mostly lived as a girl for the past year and I enjoyed it. What worried me was when I went to school and had to dress as a boy again. It was amazing that nobody had found out my double life yet. For a long time I waited impatiently to enter puberty. Now it had become my greatest fear. With that, my dancing would come to an abrupt end. It wasn't just dancing. I was afraid that I would at last be forced to act like the boy everyone else thought I should be. I've had a different opinion for a very long time, but it took the dancing for me to finally notice it. I realized I had to decide how I wanted to live my life. I had to make a decision. And it was very easy for me. I searched the internet. The more I read, the more I was sure that I was TS. But I'm barely 15, much too young, I thought. I'm just a kid. Nobody believes a kid. What could I do? I got a Christmas present from Sabine. I opened it without showing it to Mom. It was the black nightie together with a card, a girl should wear something beautiful. She had understood me. I was infinitely thankful for her understanding. And it was the last little push I needed. Mom, I have a problem. What is it this time? Still more problems with the appearances? She sounded tired. No. No problems with that, everything is great. We'll probably win the title. What is it, then? Mom, it's hard for me to say this. I've thought about it for a long time and I came to a decision. She looked at me expectantly. I summoned up all my courage. Mom, I don't want to be a boy. I am a girl. She hesitated with her reply. I had a feeling you felt that way. How long have you felt this way? As long as I can remember. When I look back, I can see many little details that gave hints. You didn't start this after you spent that day in a dress last year? No, it was a lot of fun, but I wanted to be a girl much earlier. Back then I didn't know how to tell you. You don't blame yourself, do you? I do. I believed. Tears stopped her words. Mom, don't think that way. You didn't do anything wrong. She looked a little relieved. You are sure? Very, very sure. As sure as it is possible. You don't need to worry. This isn't your fault. I love who I am, but I don't know what to do now. I don't want to go to school as a boy. I don't know. I think we have to ask a specialist. A doctor or a psychologist. We talked for a very long time. For the first time, we had a good conversation. 1 week later, we had an appointment with a psychologist. There were many tests and questionings. We got the results at the end of January. It was undisputable, I was transsexual. Mom finally felt good again. She finally realized she hadn't made some huge mistake and ruined me. She had lost a son, but she had gained a daughter. Our relationship has been so much better. She's been able to cope with her daughter much better than with her son. Nevertheless, the real problems now started. In Germany, the treatment with hormones is not allowed for adolescents under 18 years, not to mention SR surgery. It didn't make any sense to go through puberty only to fight the effects afterwards. After my voice would break, there was no way to get rid of the deep voice. That's just one example. The fight with the authorities was bad. After a long back-and-forth fight, the situation seemed hopeless. The only positive was my dancing and the great girls. It gave me the needed strength. I had told them everything and found total acceptance. Only in the school I was still called by my masculine name, otherwise I was Nicole everywhere. Thank you, Sabine, for the beautiful name. The pending puberty worried me more and more. I was already past the normal time. While surfing the net, I found a report from the Middle Ages. Cloister pupils that masturbated, a crime, were treated with hop tea. That resulted in not getting an erection and also some development of feminine features, breast growth for instance. My further investigation led quickly to a dead end. It was impossible to figure out which kind of hop had been used, how to prepare, and how much. Today's sorts are optimized for brewing beer and therefore selected for aroma and not for phytohormones. Anyhow, if I look at people who drink a lot of beer, there might be still some hormones in it, if you see the breasts of those guys. I thought hops wasn't a good answer. The phytohormones led me to another trace. Phytohormones, that means hormones out of vegetables, are similar to the human ones and are used to manufacture human hormones as a raw material. Indeed, the serious information wasn't very hopeful, but there were many personal reports which spoke of successes. Negative results were not likely, so Mom got me the wild yam pills. No prescription was needed. We might have been able to get human hormones via internet, but Mom thought it much too dangerous. She was right, I had already read some bad stories. Therefore, I took the phytohormones regularly. I didn't notice any effects, good or bad. Puberty didn't hit, but it may not have been due to the pills. I didn't want to take any risk and kept on taking them regularly. At last there was some hope. In the nearby Netherlands, the treatment of underage transsexuals over 16 years was allowed. We made an appointment with a Dutch doctor. The result gave hope, but it was far from what I wished. Up to my 16th birthday I would get drugs that will prevent puberty. Then they will decide about hormones. 18 was the earliest I could expect any surgery. At least the threatening puberty was solved, but what to do with school? I wanted a definite identity, and soon I would be teased without puberty. I did not want to live between genders anymore. We got an appointment with the principal. He was friendly, but I could tell he was not looking forward to making a decision on this topic. He promised to gather information and meet with us soon. I had little hope. However, we got another appointment some days later, and this time he had the required knowledge. He suggested a compromise. I was allowed to be a girl in school, but all the documents would keep my male name. He would ask all teachers to call me Nicole. I would get a key to my own toilet and be freed from PE. However, if pupils/teachers wouldn't accept me, I would have to change the school. The next day I went to school with girl jeans and a feminine sweater. My hair had grown and was just long enough for a small ponytail, which I had tied high on the head. Some kids looked at me strangely. At the beginning of the first class I asked to say a few words. I stood in front of the class and told my story briefly. In spite of all my fears, there were no problems. For a few days I became a small celebrity when the story spread, but that quickly faded away. The breakthrough in acceptance came with an article in the school magazine about our dancing. It had many pictures, one of me in close-up, directly next to Sabine. We quickly became known as the best Gardetans group. It even went up to the principal. He made an appointment with Sabine and I to ask whether we could perform at the school celebration. We said we had to find out if there was enough time. Everything developed quickly since we had no performances that day. Of course, I wore my Mauritian uniform to the school and enjoyed the attention. In that sexy costume, I felt more confident than ever. I was pure girl. After our performance, we all got many congratulations. The outstanding performance convinced many which had been rather unfriendly to me before. From then on, I didn't have any problems in school. I was accepted as Nicole. With Ash Wednesday, our performances came to a sudden end and a crisis started. The prospect of a feminine body was far away. I'd have to wait for hormones a whole year. That is, if I'd get any. There weren't any consents and no diversion through dancing anymore. I was frustrated, and it increased and increased. I peeved everyone, and unfortunately that included my friends, too. I didn't know how I could help it. I'd been a true girl only with the other girls in the dance group. Also, I felt confident with the petticoat, because it did hide my lacking curves. I now wore a bra all the time, but the trousers showed my obvious missing curves, too. And in the winter, skirts were simply impractical. I could cover it a little with some fashion tricks, but I longed for a more feminine look. Mom couldn't stand it anymore, and we went again to the Dutch doctor. She told him my problems in minute detail. She said it was impossible to live in the same house with me and that I was about to lose all my friends. To my astonishment, he prescribed the hormones. He said he normally isn't allowed to do that, however, this would be a medical state of emergency that would allow it, a matter of life and death. A broad grin was on his face. Long live the Dutch doctors! Hooray! I had read in the internet that many transsexuals had problems with estrogen. Mood swings, headaches, and physical problems. I didn't. To the contrary, I felt better every day. Maybe, without having a normal male puberty, I never had a large amount of masculine hormones to fight, and so now went through a normal feminine puberty. After a few months, I could see something happening to my chest. And my jeans started clearly look better. So far, everything was fine and I was in a very good temper. A new problem emerged. It wasn't possible to get a new group of girls for dancing. There were simply too few girls. Frustrating. I had so looked forward to that. With the problem came a solution as well. I got the offer to be a solo dancer, a Tanzmarichan. First I was enthusiastic, but then the objections came. Until now I was a dancer in a great group. Now I would be very alone on the stage. All eyes would be focused on me. Could I manage that? I decided to try. By fall, I had developed considerable more feminine curves, and my solo costume showed them off nicely. I was so happy. My hair had not been cut since the dyeing 2 years ago, making it long enough for my own braids. Since I didn't have to have the same hairstyle in a group, I didn't need a wig anymore. What a mercy! Then my first performance came. I was super nervous, lamp fever at its worst. Lamp fever means stage fright. Beginning with the entry, all eyes were directed towards me, because I was carried to the stage by a guard officer on his hands. I sat on the stretched out arm high above his head. He steadied one of my legs with the other hand. Not a very stable position. That increased my stage fright. Only a little stumble. But that changed fast. I was high above all heads and all eyes were on me. I had to deal more with the problem of balance than to think any more of stage fright. I arrived on the stage and received a generous applause. That helped. Then I showed my performance. Everything was perfect. The crowd was enthusiastic and rewarded me with thundering applause. At that very moment I had finally become a real girl, at least in my head. I felt accepted, no better, hailed. The time of doubts was gone. I would have to wait 2 years for the surgery, but now that wasn't so important. It was just another detail. The transformation from an unhappy, problem-laden boy into a happy, confident girl was already done.